North Korea is ready to hold direct talks with Washington, but only on the condition that it recognize the state as a nuclear power. Korea is pushing the United States to recognize it as a nuclear weapons state. Russian delegates who recently visited Pyongyang say North Korea is ready to hold direct talks with Washington, but only on the condition that it recognize the state as a nuclear power. The Russians said they were also told that the North successfully launched its new Hwasong-15 ICBM on Wednesday, and that the country had already achieved its goal of becoming a nuclear weapons state. The bilateral meeting took place on Thursday, a day after the launch.
North Korea has accused the United States of escalating tensions on the Korean peninsula. The U.S. and South Korea will begin their annual 5-day joint military exercises on Monday. Concerns are growing that Pyongyang may use the upcoming drills as an excuse for more provocative acts. North Korea's foreign ministry released a statement on Saturday through state-run media. It says the U.S. consistently carries out large-scale military provocations with its strategic nuclear weapons, driving the situation on the Korean peninsula close to a flashpoint. It also says the mission of the North's nuclear forces is to deter and thwart U.S. invasions and attacks, and to retaliate against the base of the invasions with a devastating attack. The statement adds that peace and security on the Korean peninsula and around the world can only be protected when North Korea achieves a balance of power against the U.S. This comment is in line with Pyongyang's claim that its nuclear and missile programs are for self-defense.
Is there anything short of military action that you think can be done to force North Korea to denuclearize?
What we are doing now is the international community has applied pressure to North Korea so that North Korea will have to change its policy. And we would like to create a situation whereby North Korea itself would come to us and say that they will change their policy and that they would like to engage in a dialogue.
Is there anything, I mean, the UN Security Council is meeting tomorrow. North Korea is already the most sanctioned country in the world. Is anything the UN Security Council can do that somehow ratchets it up further than the U.S. and the UN have already done?
Well, we did pass 2 resolutions already this year. We're always looking at new ways to apply this pressure, whether that be through the Security Council, whether it be obviously unilaterally by the United States alone, and in multilateral combinations. We know that there are other countries closer to the border of North Korea that have much more leverage than the United States does. I mean, we don't have diplomatic relations. We don't really have economic ties. Obviously, we want all the nations of the world to do more. Ultimately, that means Russia and China at the utmost, which have the greatest amount of economic ties and leverage over North Korea. We've seen progress. The president's encouraged by the progress he's seen, especially from the Chinese government over the course of this year. I think we don't believe that there's any country on earth that has exhausted all of its alternatives. We think everybody can do more, but we're encouraged by the progress and we're going to be pushing for more progress.
But today was dangerous.
Anytime they do this, it's dangerous. The program itself is dangerous, and what's especially dangerous is we believe every new test, whether it's successful or whether it's an obvious failure. Remember, several missiles this year blew up on the launch pad. We think that they learn something from every test, whether it's a success, whether it's a failure, or whether it's something in between, and we're constantly concerned and worried about it.
Michael, I know it's a busy day, so thanks for coming out here.
Thank you.
In a briefing you gave, you specifically called on Germany to withdraw its ambassador from North Korea.
That was misreported. I'd like to go back, and if you want to check the transcript, actually, I did not call on Germany to get rid of its ambassador. What we did, and what we often do, as you've heard me many times here before, is call upon countries to do a lot more. To do a lot more, which could include kicking out an ambassador. It could include reducing the size of the footprint of that country. It could include reducing the number of North Korean guest workers. There were some reporters who misreported that, so I just want to make that clear.
The quote, if maybe this isn't accurate, but you said we would continue to ask Germany or other countries around the world to recall those ambassadors, shrink the footprint of the size of the entity that North Korea has in any given country. I mean, so when you said
that is nothing new. We ask
to recall those ambassadors.
We ask a lot of those countries to do that type of thing. Certainly.
Okay, so did the secretary today ask the foreign minister of Germany to recall his ambassador?
The secretary did not specifically ask that, but the conversation did come up, and that's why I mentioned that AFP story that came out earlier today that said that they would. Just go back and double check it, but that they would, I believe they said, reduce the size of their footprint,
so
reduce its diplomatic mission.
Was he disappointed that the Germans have not recalled their ambassador? I mean, Nikki Haley yesterday was very explicit at the UN. They want countries around the world to completely cut off diplomatic ties with North Korea. Germany is saying, essentially, sure, we'll reduce staff, but we're going to leave this embassy open.
I think this is a success. The news that we have seen come out of Germany, as with many other nations, we've seen this with Peru, we've seen it with Japan, we've seen it with South Korea, we've seen it with Sudan, where Sudan has recently said that it's no longer going to buy weapons from the DPRK. That is all a part of our maximum pressure campaign. That maximum pressure campaign, which you all probably get tired of hearing me talk about, is something that is our top national security priority here. Nations continue to get on board and support that. We have well north of 20 countries who have done different things to jump on board with that campaigin. And I think the news that's coming out of Germany today is altogether positive. Okay. Saeed.
On that subject.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
Can you just sort of again be explicit? Do you want all of your allies to end diplomatic ties, withdraw their ambassadors from Pyongyang? Because we're hearing from your allies, from U.S. allies, that they have no intention of withdrawing their ambassadors, and that in their conversations with the Trump administration is not asking them to withdraw their ambassadors or end diplomatic ties. So what are you asking them specifically to do?
Well, one of the things that we have talked about here in this administration is the importance of sovereign nations, right? So nations have the ability to make the choices that are best or that they believe are best for their nations. However, we all, civilized nations, recognize the constant and pervasive threat of the DPRK. We saw what just happened 2 days ago with what we believe may have been an intercontinental ballistic missile launch, in addition to the other launches that North Korea has conducted and the advanced nuclear testing that they conducted just a few months ago. So we have seen all of that. The world recognizes what a regional and global threat North Korea is, that North Korea presents. So many countries in the world are on board with this campaign, on board with the maximum pressure campaign. But countries have to make their own decisions about what will work best for them.
What is the campaign? Do you want them to all close their embassies and withdraw all their diplomatic personnel from Pyongyang?
I can give you transcript of the briefings from here, Gardner, or from the Secretary Tillerson's meetings about our maximum pressure campaign. I can briefly go over it once again. Sorry, you all have heard it.
No, just the ambassador.
You all have heard it a million times.
Because they're telling us that they're not hearing from you that you want their missions to be shuttered and all their ambassadors withdrawn.
I have not heard from any particular ambassadors with that question. I've not gotten that question from any particular ambassadors. If we do, and I know about it, I can certainly let you know, but we've not gotten that question so far.
But you want them to all withdraw their ambassadors,
look,
is that right?
Here's what I would say, and I'm not in the position to make policy, so I am not going to do that. But a key part of our maximum pressure campaign is to ask other nations, and again, let me underscore that countries are all sovereign. Okay, they need to do what they feel is in their best interest. That is something that this administration recognizes. But we ask countries to choke off the money supply that goes into North Korea. We know for a fact that North Korea doesn't use the money that comes into its government or to its people for the benefit of its people. They don't feed their people. They have people starving, malnourished. We've all seen that. You've seen the intestinal problems that the soldier who just escaped from North Korea has certainly had, all of that. So we know the money doesn't go to the people. We know the money goes to its illegal weapons programs. So we have called on countries across the world to join us in that maximum pressure campaign in reducing the size of their missions in North Korea. If they would be willing to close their missions in North Korea altogether, I think that is something that we would be supportive of. We've also called on nations to kick out North Korean guest workers, to reduce the size of North Korean missions in their own countries. It's a broad pressure campaign. We also have the unilateral sanctions and all of that, in addition to the UN Security Council resolutions.